I've been taught to yell, stop resisting and drop your weapon after firing a gun because bystanders will remember you said it, and their memory will automatically reverse the order of events you make to make it make sense. Their testimony will support yours because of this. I've been told to loosen up and have fun. It's fun. Why are you so serious when doing a shoot, don't shoot scenario training? I've been told that de-escalation techniques will get me and other officers killed. And as a smaller law enforcement officer, I was justified escalating my use of force faster than my colleagues because I was always in danger, so I should use it. Okay? Which, by the way, this is all consistent with like not only killology or however the fuck you say it, but also just like training in general. This is consistent with the outcome that you see. They literally, from start to bottom, talk about how cops are constantly in danger. They're constantly in danger of the elements, whether it be fentanyl, laughable, or every person that they're dealing with being like a violent criminal who is out to kill them. Killology, yeah. And by the way, de-escalation is seen as a burden and is seen as a bad thing in police forces. We talked about the case from, was it West Virginia? Of the military veteran who joined the force after touring. And then they fired him because he refused to kill a guy who was trying to do a suicide by cop. They fired him. Shit like this happens all the time. It's not that there are more good cops and the bad cops are just like kind of spoiling the bunch or whatever. It's that there are some good cops, sure, but they get fucking fired, killed, or are forced to quit. Yeah, he settled against the state and won $175,000 for being fired unjustly. Deputy Chief Sarah Lynn C.J. Davis is an innovative and highly qualified leader in the Atlanta Police Department. Yeah, I think like, is it true? I don't know if she actually got fired from the or relocated from the Atlanta Police Department because she was covering up a sexual assault. But that's what I heard. And she's the one who advocated to start the Scorpion unit to begin with. So everybody who's like thinking that she's great, is not necessarily correct in that. Oh, pedo stuff. Oh, I thought it was just sexual assault. Anyway. Skip intro video about We Own the City. I don't know what skip intro is, but We Own the City is my favorite. We Own the City, as I've talked about, is my favorite favorite piece of media to watch that very quickly shows you the truth about how cops work. It's a real story. It's not even a story. It's a real thing that actually happened. A journalist in Baltimore covered every detail and every conversation taking place in the gun trace task force in Baltimore that was, incredibly corrupt. It's very similar to very similar to the Scorpion task force. A lot of times these like specialized forces, a lot of times these special forces in the police are seen as earners, producers. They're like, they can do insanely violent shit. They're plainclothes officers. They have unmarked cars. Yeah, the guy that wrote The Wire, David Simon, is the one who actually, directed this. And it's very, very, very good. What is this? This video includes scenes of graphic violence. Cops from around the world react to U.S. policing. I mean, I don't want to do that right now. So Scorpion unit tactics are all too common. They're not unique. Okay.
Interview with CBS News, the Memphis police chief said she felt outraged watching the footage and questioned the reason for pulling Nichols over.
I hate that they just like
Very
show this
puzzling
footage
for me
over and over again.
That I don't have the information that I need to at least understand what started this.
The 5 former.
I love that like cops and priests, like they relocate. Anytime a cop or a priest fucking relocates, know that some sussy ass shit happened. You know what I mean? Yeah, it turns out the Memphis police chief, Sarah Davis, CJ Davis, fired from previous Atlanta job after botched sex crimes probe. The chief of police in Memphis, in charge of the 5 officers who fatally beat and tasered motorist Tyree Nichols, was fired from a previous law enforcement job after a botched probe. Sarah Davis became the first female police chief in Memphis history in 2021. Everyone was like, oh man, that's so brilliant. That's so great. Liberalism. You know what I mean? We did it. New York Post, bro, you might want to double check that. Brother, New York Post loves to sensationalize shit, and they certainly are not anti-cop, okay? If you know anything about New York Post's history, then you understand that, like, despite the fact that they love sensationalizing shit, they're not going to fucking write a fake story altogether. And not only that, but, like, it's not like they're fucking anti-cop, dumbass. So if they're writing about a police officer like this, understand that it's most likely fucking true. Half of their coverage is literally a black guy is dangerous in public. Literally, like half of their coverage is unironically about like anytime a black person even sneezes in the direction of someone, God forbid a white person, New York Post is going to cover it in the most racist ways possible, okay? Yeah, look, racism didn't kill Tyree Nichols. Moronic, poorly trained cops did. Boom, NYPD cars vandalized an anti-cop slogan in 3rd straight day of attacks. Tyree Nichols' case, Memphis police chief was once fired from the Atlanta Police Department. She was reinstated on appeal and eventually left for another department. The chief of Memphis Police Department had a lengthy career in Atlanta that nearly ended her 2008 firing in connection with a botched investigation involving the husband of a police sergeant. Now, Sarah Davis finds herself in the spotlight again. The 5 officers involved, all of whom also are black, were quickly fired and indicted Thursday on second-degree murder. She says she was outraged. We all know that. Parallels were made to the Rodney King beating. Mr. Nichols was able to get away from these officers, and they found him again at another location, Davis said. Now, let's take a look. She got her start as a patrol officer in Atlanta in 1986. She quickly advanced through the ranks, holding various titles before eventually being named deputy chief. As a commander, she led Atlanta's Special Operations Section, which includes SWAT, mounted patrols, motors, APD's helicopter unit, vice, and narcotics. Understand that this is when you're the top cop like this, okay? When you're the top cop like this, you have your hands in every fucking violent aspect, including, and I heard about this as well, the city's infamous Red Dog unit. This is a particularly incredibly fucking brutal squad. In 1988, the Soviet Union controlled Eastern Europe, and crack cocaine dealers controlled many of Atlanta's apartment complexes, including the city's 37 public housing projects, some public housing residents terrorized by nightly gunfire. Okay. We'll look more in the Red Dog unit as well. She also served as Atlanta's Police Department's Internal Affairs Commander. Now, understand that the person in charge of like more of the violent specialty units also suggested similar structures within the Memphis Police Department when she became police chief there. She is the reason why they even had a Red Dog unit style Scorpion unit in Memphis. So for her to like say, oh man, we really fucked up here, let's disband it, that's just her covering her own ass. And the fact that the media is not talking about this is just insane to me. They are simply doing propaganda. When they say these 5 cops that were fired were uniquely brutal, different than other kinds of cops who actually do a really good job, they're doing propaganda. I told you, as soon as I saw the video, as soon as I watched the video, you saw this on stream, I told you, this is violent. It's horrific. It's inhumane. But the one thing it's not is unusual. It's not unusual that cops behave this way. And you can see on camera that it's so not unusual that they're openly talking about it on their body camera footage. They're openly talking about it. You want to know why they're openly talking about it? Because they know this is normal process. They didn't even think that they might get punished for this. They didn't even think they would get desk duty for this. They didn't even run damage control immediately. That's how you know it's not unusual. If you want further proof that it's not unusual, the first 3 different cruisers that were involved in the original traffic stop that were just as brutal as the 5 that got fired did not get any kind of punishment until later. Now they're starting to involve the other cops that ripped him out of the fucking car, beat the shit out of him, tased him while he was on the ground. And the unfortunate and sad reality, the real sad part about this, the additionally sad part about this is that if Tyree Nichols hadn't died, or if there wasn't the poll camera footage that was accessible to like all parts of the department, we would not have had this be a nationwide story. You want to know why? Because this happened with Sandra Bland. This happened with Elijah McClain. This happened with Philando Castile. This happens 3 times a day in the United States of America. So don't fucking tell me that this is beyond the pale, beyond reason, so unusual, so different. Okay? The Red Dog unit that she oversaw was disbanded. It was controversial. Despite complaints involving Red Dog officers, Turner said at the press conference that the disbanding was not prompted by recent allegations. The raid on the Atlanta Eagle in September 2009 was conducted by the APD's Vice Squad, which called in the Red Dog unit for backup. Patrons of the bar that night, who later sued the APD, including many Red Dog officers, said members of the paramilitary unit used anti-gay slurs against them. This is a Stonewall, this was like targeted against a gay club, and a queer nightclub in 2009. Used excessive force and searched them without probable cause. None of the patrons were arrested during the raid. The city settled a federal lawsuit with the Eagle plaintiffs in December for $1 million. Okay? For $1 million. The settlement also included reforms to APD's standard operating procedures by mandating no more illegal search and seizures, as well as an internal investigation into all the officers involved in the raid. The investigation is set to be concluded by May. I would love to hear who got fucking fired there. And that's taxpayer-funded settlements, by the way, remember. I'm relieved that the new city officials, mayor, and the police chief see the need to make the changes. I'm glad they did. I'm glad they finally recognized there was an issue. The citizens and visitors of Atlanta will benefit. There are probably more good officers in the Red Dog unit, but others need to stop violating the civil rights of people. These people need to be in Afghanistan or Iraq. We are a city that is not under siege, Ramey said. Oh, God, I love liberalism so much. They're like, come on, this kind of brutality is for the Iraqi children. You know what I mean? Not us, tax-paying citizens of the United States of America. Anyway, the Atlanta Citizens Review Board, an independent body, last week made it public its full investigative report on the police actions during the Atlanta Eagle raid. The Citizen Board recommended punishments ranging from 3 days suspensions. This is why civilian boards are also fucking dog water. Written reprimands and Fourth Amendment trainings to all officers involved in the raid. Two Red Dog officers involved in the Atlanta Eagle raid were put on administrative leave after two men alleged they and another Red Dog officer pulled them over and fondled them. One man said he was forced to pull his butt cheeks apart in the middle of the street as an officer conducted a cavity search. He got 3 days off, dude. The suggestion from the Citizen Review Board was, did you fucking make someone spread their butt cheeks and do a cavity search in the middle of the street? Did you fondle them? Take 3 days off to really, think about that. That's crazy. The APD LGBT advisory group created in the wake of citizen frustration about the Eagle raid sent Chief Turner a letter last week asking him to follow the recommended punishments for the officers. Please take 3 days off after you sexually assaulted a patron for no reason. Turner said that at today's... Bro, kids in kindergarten get longer sentencing and like more punitive timeouts than fucking cops do. I don't know what it would take for a cop to get severely punished for like that genuinely meets the crime that they are engaging in. You know what I mean? The actions. Chatters get longer time off for making bad jokes. Anyway, the Red Dog unit was created in 1987 and named after the football move of blitzing a quarterback, according to the fact sheet distributed by the Atlanta Police Department after the press conference. Clearly, after the settlement was done, it forced our investigation back to a different point, so we had to do various things, and after the settlement, we are in the process of completing that investigation. Yeah. Anyway, they disbanded it because this raid was the final draw, but a lot of these units get a fuckload of complaints that fall on deaf ears. So I'm sure CJ was, very good at avoiding hearing about how fucking awful the Scorpion unit was, as we already know some people actually did turn around and file complaints, which were not heard by people in positions of power. So. Dude, do you think it's the right time for me to turn around in the middle of like covering police brutality in America, talking about systemic issues, to talk about Cutie Cinderella's tweet? Do you think this is the best time for this? Why are you spamming this over and over again? Especially if Cutie's tweet itself implies that no coverage should be afforded to the matter. Like, you're literally like, hey, can you cover this tweet that says please don't cover this shit? Do you think you're doing it because you genuinely care about it? Or do you think you're doing it because you just want drama and you want to fucking get a nice little clip for LSF? One of the facts seared into my head is that when Derek Chauvin was convicted for murdering George Floyd, he was only the 7th cop to be convicted of murder since 2005 out of the 15,000 police killings in those 16 years. Yeah. Yeah. The sixth one was also Mohammed Noor from the same city, ironically enough. A Somali cop who was pretty new and killed an Australian yoga instructor on a police call, which, by the way, he deserves to go to prison for that. Do not misunderstand me. Just, just some things to think about. I gave We Own the City on HBO a watch and is highly recommended. Based Will take on police. Yeah, Will literally Will's job was literally to scour 10,000 hours of police brutality footage to find the worst bits. That was it. That was his job back in the day when I met him. Yeah. Hasan intimidates me more than the mean girls in high school did. Wait, why? Anyway, so we know her background on the Red Dog unit and like the special weapons and tactics that she worked on. Okay, let's continue. CJ was fired from the Atlanta Police Department in 2008 for her alleged involvement in a sex crimes investigation into the husband of an Atlanta police sergeant, according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Okay, this also doesn't like offer a lot of information on it, unfortunately. But yeah, she was the Atlanta Police Department's internal affairs commander. She was fired in 2008 for her alleged involvement in a botched sex crimes investigation into the husband of an Atlanta police sergeant. Another police employee was also fired, and the Sergeant Tanya Crane resigned before the department decided how to punish her. Two detectives accused Davis of telling them not to investigate Crane's husband, Terrell Marion, T.C. Crane, after the department obtained sexual photos of him with underage girls. A federal grand jury later indicted T.C. Crane on charges of producing child pornography. He pleaded guilty to one count in January 2009. She was fired for telling detectives not to fucking investigate someone for CP. I love protecting and serving, dude. You know what I mean? Protecting and serving, baby. I think this is truly heinous. Obviously. Like, what she did is heinous. What she did is gross. Regular police, by the way. That's just how police operate, okay? If this shocks you, then you don't understand how cops work. Straight up. However, what's additionally heinous is that the media did not do this due diligence. Like, I first heard about this a couple days ago on Twitter, man. Like, that's crazy. It's crazy that, like, Twitter is where I found out about this. And not fucking CNN, as Don Lemon is standing next to her going, oh, yeah, it's really, how gruesome was the footage? What other job can you put covering up a coworker's crime on your resume and still get hired? That, but it's also like your job literally is to like uncover crime. You know what I mean? Like on paper, your job is to literally stop crime. And when you actually stop the investigation from being conducted, you're still elevated to a higher position. She retired from the department in 2016 to take the job as the Durham, North Carolina police chief. And in April 2021, Davis was selected by Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland as the department's first female chief, and her appointment was confirmed a month later. They did this as a PR move, by the way. She's a telegenic black woman with 30 years experience on the job. That's why they fucking put her in that position. And one of the things she did was create the Scorpion Unit. But of course she created the Scorpion Unit. Okay? Wait, elevated? I thought you said she got fired. Yes, she got fired. Then it doesn't matter. She became police chief again somewhere else. And then she was appointed to be police chief of Memphis, the city's first female black police chief. Cops and priests, baby. Part of the job. Cops and priests. You ever see a motherfucking cop get relocated? Know that they've done some fuck shit, okay? Good rule of thumb. Couple good rules of thumb at the HasanAbi broadcast. I'm going to go over these again. When you hear a story about a police overdose or a police dying of fentanyl or some shit, not dying, but like ODing on fentanyl, that's bullshit. Immediately. Don't believe it, okay? In all of my years of covering cop shit, I've never seen a singular cop that unironically got like contact poisoned by fentanyl. It's always a lie. That's number one. And it's done specifically to continue the war on drugs narrative. Number two, cops also always lie about being harassed by fast food workers, okay? By being harassed by the service industry. Anytime you hear about a story about a cop being bullied for being a cop, that's also a fucking lie. If you go by these rules, you are going to be correct like 85% of the time. Okay? You might get it wrong sometimes. Obviously, still maintain your skepticism. Maybe, there might be some truth to the matter. Who knows? Look into each individual story. But if you go by that rule of thumb, you're probably going to be right most of the time, okay? I'm not even 85. Fuck it. 95% of the time, you are going to be correct, okay? And lastly, but not least, of course, if you see a cop that has been relocated from one station to another, treat it like a fucking priest. Okay? There's a reason why they did that. There's a reason why that happened. And that reason, well, sometimes in the case of CJ Davis, can be literally covering up like pedophilia, okay, just like priests. Or more routine things like brutality, racism, murder, things of that nature, okay? So remember that. People talk about training all the time without understanding that police are literally trained to kill. There's a widespread assumption that police are trained to de-escalate as such, but they're not. They're trained to neutralize threats and minimize risks to themselves. Exactly. And the system unironically reinforces this mentality. The system protects them when they behave like this. One of the first things CJ Davis did in Durham, by the way, was send cops to Israel for training. Oh, perfect. Yeah. You got to learn how to kettle and corral, baby. There's one thing. If there's one thing American cops need, it's training by the IDF so they can become more brutal and treat every fucking person that they interact with like an Israeli defense person treating a motherfucking Palestinian child, with a bullet. IDF, notorious for de-escalation. Many reverting to the same stale demand for more training are cynical. Some are just bullshitting to CYA. What is that? Until this latest outrage blows over, some are Zoomers who haven't heard this debate 900 times yet. Whatever the reason, I recommend you actually read what they're trained to do. Yes, this is something that I cover your ass. Oh, okay. Sending in Ivy League kids to patrol under-resourced and hyper-surveilled poor communities won't alter the fundamental and institutional function of police, nor will it address the underlying reasons as to why the United States has such high crime rates and high incarceration rates. In any event, the idea that problem with police is that they're simply too undereducated is a very phoned-in take, clearly pandering to overeducated credential humpers. One reason the Globe Emoji Twitter loves it so much, technocratic, unfalsifiable, and fundamentally conservative. God, Adam is so fucking good at his job, dude. Truly, like, he is so fucking good. He's been doing this shit for many, many years, and he does not miss. This motherfucker rarely ever misses, okay? As far as, like, on the independent media side, like Adam Johnson, always, his media analysis is always on point, and his analysis on crime and policing, always very, very good. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend giving him a follow. He is pretty good at this stuff. His podcast is the Citations Needed podcast, also very good. Podcast on the media, power, PR, and the history of bullshit, hosted by Why to Sleep Nima and Adam Johnson. But yeah, he is absolutely correct on this. Noah Smith, of course, goes with the bad take that he always has. More and more, I'm convinced that big policing reform need to professionalize the police. What most people refuse to understand is that the police are trained to specifically kill people. I mean, Dave Grossman, one of the most popular and celebrated police trainers in America, describes his discipline as killology and wrote a book on killing. For the last several decades, Grossman has presented many thousands of trainings to hundreds of thousands of police, including officers in large departments run by police chiefs that the media portrays as progressive and respectable. Like, we have watched this guy. We have watched a killology seminar on this broadcast. You know it is insane and unhinged. In any other circumstance, if you weren't so fucking geared to think cops are supposed to be doing this because of the endless amounts of propaganda that actively and desperately tries to normalize that kind of behavior, okay, you would look at that and go, that's insane. Actually, fuck that. You still look at that as a normal person who's not a cop and go, that's insane. Why is that a part of the training? Demon Stasis, thank you for the 5. Get the subs. The problem is not an absence of training and professionalism. The problem is that lying and killing are at the heart of the profession. Exactly. The stop resisting and show me your hands is the most common thing that they fucking say. Not because they genuinely want you to stop resisting, because in most of those circumstances, and I can tell you this as a person who has, again, reviewed thousands of hours of police brutality body camera fucking videos, okay? They always say that, and the motherfuckers are not resisting. The victims never are resisting. They're saying that as an alibi. They're saying that because they are going to kill you, and they want to make sure that it looks better on camera when they end up doing it. Cops lie also so much and so frequently. Another HasanAbi broadcast classic. They have a terminology for it, for lying on the stand. It's called test-the-lying. Okay? It is so much a part of being a cop that they literally fucking have a term for it. Test-the-lying. Anyway. No, they don't. Stop playing. Test the lying. That's not a real term. Is that what you just said? Like, lying on the stand is not a real concept. Police perjury is the act of a police officer knowingly giving false testimony. It is typically used in criminal trial to make the case against defendants believed by the police to be guilty when irregularities during the suspect's arrest or search threaten the result in their acquittal. It can also be extended to encompass substantive misstatements. of fact to convict those whom the police believe to be guilty procedural misstatements, to justify search and seizure, or even the inclusion of statements to frame an innocent citizen. More generically, it has been said to be lying under oath, especially by a police officer, to help get a conviction. I'm surprised that there is no Supreme Court decision that specifically dictates that testifying is adequate. Oh yeah, the famous words from Dave Grossman is that sex after a kill is the best sex of your life. That's one of the things that he teaches you, Dave Grossman. As I read about the disbelief expressed by some prosecutors, I thought Claude Rains' classic response in Casablanca on being told there was gambling in Rick's place. I'm shocked. For anyone who has practiced criminal law in the state or federal courts, the disclosures about rampant police perjury cannot possibly come as a surprise. Test-lying, as the police call it, has long been an open secret among prosecutors, defense lawyers, and judges. That's what, by the way, everyone's favorite fucking defense lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, said. God damn it, you know? You hate to see it. The Dersh! He's back! This motherfucker's been around for so long that, you know, it's inevitable that he's going to be right on some shit. The Dersh! Alan, I always kept my underpants on when I was hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. Dershowitz. What do you mean, he said that. I didn't say it. Alan, there's a Alan, constitutionally speaking, if there is if a 16-year-old can consent to an abortion, a 16-year-old can consent to sex, Dershowitz. I didn't say that. He did. He wrote it. You can go search it if you want. Alan Dershowitz famously fucking argued that the age of consent should be lowered, constitutionally speaking, because a 16-year-old can consent to getting an abortion. You also got Norman Finkelstein fired for defending Palestinian dignity. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Alan Dershowitz's defense op-ed suggesting the age of consent for sex should be lowered. That's a real thing that he did. God, he's such a fucking insane person. He, by the way, gets this bright legal mind, okay, who was Jeffrey Epstein's close friend and, you know, trial lawyer. He's always on Fox News. Like, he's on Tucker Carlson's show all the time. I thought these motherfuckers hated pedophiles and pedophile defenders. Meanwhile, he's on every fucking night